This is Plant-Based Briefing. Pennsylvania egg brand agrees to drop deceptive freeroaming label by Jessica Scott-Reid at sentientmedia.org. And I'm Marian Erickson. This is the curated content plant-based podcast where I narrate articles on plant-based and vegan living in about 10 minutes or less every weekday with permission. And I'm pleased to have permission from Sentient to share their content. So now let's get to today's Plant-Based Briefing. Pennsylvania egg brand agrees to drop deceptive freeroaming label by Jessica Scott-Reid at sentientmedia.org. Drone footage obtained by animal rights group proved crucial to settlement negotiations. For decades, the meat industry has been attempting to thwart undercover investigations with so-called ag-gag laws, state laws that criminalize the unauthorized recording of livestock farm operations. One way investigators have persisted, however, is with the use of drone technology, which can enable investigators to document conditions on farms that may not align with the claims on the label. Drone footage supplied key evidence in a case brought by animal advocacy group Animal Outlook against Alderfer poultry farming, a Pennsylvania egg brand that advertised its eggs as free-roaming, when footage revealed some of these hens were not afforded better welfare conditions in reality. Alderfer has now agreed to settle the lawsuit for $287,500 and pledged to remove the free-roaming claim from its products. The company's eggs are sold in stores in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states, according to Animal Outlook. Sentient contacted Alderfer for comment, but did not receive a reply. Ben Williamson, executive director of Animal Outlook, tells Sentient he believes this is the first case in which a drone has been used to legally prove that an egg producer was making misleading claims. Piper Hoffman, Senior Director of Legal Advocacy for Animal Outlook, tells Sentient that some of the spaces for hens in the footage were narrow, metal, and bleak. "We saw no birds on the ground outside," she says. "I don't know if they ever saw the sun." Egg producer sued for misleading consumers. Drone footage from several Alderfer farms was taken by Animal Outlook in partnership with photojournalism organization We Animals in December 2023. The footage revealed that some hens labeled as free-roaming were only provided small, covered, and wire-floored porches that could only accommodate a fraction of the flock. Other farms appeared to provide animals with no outdoor access at all. For years, the industry has gotten away with cruelty to animals by having huge walls that were only ever impenetrable by undercover investigations, Williamson says. Being able to fly drones from a public sidewalk on the street, public property, over the top of a facility, allows us to see what's going on behind those walls. The case, an action for consumer protection brought in the District of Columbia and represented by Richmond Law and Policy, also utilized consumer surveys to prove that Alderfer's free-roaming claims were misleading to the public. The surveys confirmed that when consumers looked at the true images of the brand's egg facilities, that was not what they expected from the term free-roaming, says Hoffman. Similar research conducted in Canada in 2024 found that when consumers were shown various free-run packaging examples, only 14% correctly answered that the hens are still held indoors 24/7. According to Bryant Research, 68% mistakenly believed these hens are housed in better conditions with outdoor space. Pamela Vesseland, assistant professor of law at Vermont Law School, explains why these surveys are critical. You find overwhelmingly that consumers think free roaming means one thing, when in fact that's not at all what it means in this situation. Cage-free, free-range, and free roaming. Some labeling claims made on eggs are legally defined by the United States Department of Agriculture, or USDA's Agriculture Marketing Service. This includes cage-free and free-range. The agency does not define free roaming, allowing the producer to evade the regulatory requirements. USDA-graded eggs labeled as cage-free must provide hens the ability to roam freely within the facility and to, quote, engage in natural behaviors, unquote. These hens are not required to have access to the outdoors, but can and often are held in massive, windowless, warehouse-type barns. USDA-graded free-range eggs are produced by hens who have the same indoor access as cage-free hens, but also must have continuous access to the outdoors during their laying cycle. Outdoor areas may be fenced or covered with netting. There is no mention of natural ground cover, grass, or sunlight. These specific labels, according to the USDA, must undergo a review process to verify the claim is truthful. These visits often happen once per year or as little as once every 2 years. According to Animal Outlook's Piper Hoffman, egg producers don't have to participate in the voluntary USDA grading program, and if they don't, They aren't subject to USDA verification visits if they use either free range or cage-free. As for free roaming, says Hoffman, there's no regulation at all and no USDA oversight to verify the free roaming label's accuracy. The use of class action lawsuits against egg producers is a popular tactic for advocates for farm animals. 2 Illinois residents are currently suing Eggland's Best, Inc. in a class action lawsuit in Chicago over allegedly misleading claims that cage-free hens are free to roam in a pleasant natural environment. The plaintiffs argue that the hens are actually confined indoors in crowded, concrete, windowless facilities. While this may meet cage-free requirements, these hens are not free to roam anywhere, and their living conditions are neither natural nor pleasant, they argue in the complaint. Majority of layer hens still kept in battery cages. The egg industry, like much of the food industry writ large, is no stranger to misleading marketing. Various terminology around housing and handling, made with varying degrees of oversight, whether by government agencies, voluntary third parties, or no one at all, make the egg buying landscape confusing for consumers. Despite modest space improvements passed in a handful of states, around 60% of hens farmed for eggs in the U.S. are still confined to battery cages. These are the smallest cages allowed by law, providing at minimum 67 square inches of space, less than a sheet of paper, per bird for the majority of their lives. The bottom line, the Alderfer case points to a larger problem of misleading claims on food labels. While consumers may seek higher welfare eggs, the label on the carton does not necessarily reflect reality. For now, Williams says he hopes this case will serve as an example for other animal protection organizations that they can use cutting-edge photography to investigate other claims such as free roaming in their jurisdictions and hopefully make a difference for the lives of egg-laying hens around the world. You just listened to Pennsylvania Egg Brand Agrees to Drop Deceptive Free Roaming Label by Jessica Scott-Reid at sentientmedia.org, and I'm your host, Marian Erickson. This is infuriating. Reading this, it drives me crazy that these people are so heartless and they just completely and outright lie to sell their eggs at a higher price for people who want to do the right thing. They want to buy humanely raised eggs, which don't exist. But also the fact that the USDA grading program is voluntary, but people who don't want to participate can still use the terminology and make up their own terminology. And even the terminology that's there isn't what it's deceiving people into believing. And I was shocked and pissed off to read that 60% of hens exploited for their eggs in the U.S. are still confined to battery cages, cages the size of a sheet of paper. They can't even turn around. They can't flap their wings. How can we be doing this? And honestly, the battery cages aren't really a whole lot better than the ginormous cages with tens of thousands of defenseless birds stuck in them because they can't really move around there either. But it's all just so barbaric. Even backyard eggs from backyard chickens, is exploitative and cruel because the chickens themselves are bred to produce an obnoxiously unhealthy amount of eggs. Normally in nature, they'd produce, a dozen, maybe 2 dozen eggs. And they've been bred to produce over 300 a year. It completely depletes their body. They often go into prolapse where their insides literally get pushed out. It essentially kills them. That would be like human women ovulating every single day instead of once a month. It would completely deplete us. I will link some related episodes in the show notes. I've done a ton on the humane hoax, but I'll link some egg-specific ones, including 878, in ovo sexing does not make the egg industry humane or ethical. 582, what's wrong with humanely raised poultry and eggs? 278, is it okay for sanctuaries to give hens' eggs to donors? And the dilemma of backyard chicken keeping. 907, deceptive animal product labels. 905, eggs from rescued hens. And 52, the rescue of Kakuta and the rooster dilemma. So please share this episode with anyone who might benefit, and thanks for listening.